flex that back up. When I first started, I actually had a Harrow disc. And a Harrow disc worked perfect. It was dish shaped, and we could put the heat on there, and it was absolutely perfect. Now, I have a very good friend over here who is gluten intolerant. She cannot have wheat. And she heard that I was going to do this, and she said, would you please make me a gluten-free cornbread? So we have a little gluten-free cornbread in a tin. Okay, now you can see that we can do all of this up high, and I don't have to have a whole lot of briquettes spread out all over the place. And we're just going to basically let this stuff cook, and we're going to do a Q&A. We're going to have everybody ask any questions about problems or specific problems that you may have encountered when you're doing Dutch oven. I will tell you that our experience with this has come through a lot of years of doing things wrong. And then I happened to take a couple of classes and wished I had known about that long before I started. But let's talk a little bit about briquettes, first of all.
Will you finish your cobbler recipe first?
Oh, what did I do? 3 cans?
3 cans.
Okay, sorry. All right. And the cake mix is a white cake mix and a yellow cake mix. Both. That's the 2 part. It goes 3, 2, 1. Okay? You mix the yellow and the white cake mixes. Just fork them onto the top. Don't get them all down into the fruit. Just fork them around on the top. And then 1 can of 7-Up or Sprite or Diet 7-Up or Diet Sprite. And you fork that into just the cake mix. Try to be careful not to get it all the way down into the fruit, all right? So just create yourself a good layer of cake mix over the top, and then pour on a can, all right? It's supposed to be a can. This is a bottle. It'll be a little bit more. So I left a little bit out. We don't want it to be too much. The 3 is the 3 cans of fruit. Yeah, the 3-2-1 cobblers, 3 cans of your favorite fruit, 2 cake mixes, and 1 of the cans of pop. All right.
The lemon worked really well.
The lemon pie filling with a lemon cake mix on top, and again the 7-Up. And then when we were done with that, we took a real fine sugar, not powdered sugar, but a very fine granulated sugar, and just sprinkled it all over the top, and it made a real fine, almost a brulee, like a creme brulee crust over the top of the thing.
So you didn't put two boxes of cake filling?
We did on that one, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You put 2 yellows?
Yeah, it was 2 yellows. It was all, this was a very yellow dessert, but it was extremely good. Again, I apologize for getting sidetracked on all of this, but I just got to make sure that we're cooking all of this, or we're going to be here for a little while.
Do you always line your Dutch oven with something when you're going to do sugary?
Good question. Yes, it is. There's a couple of things that you want to line your Dutches for. If you buy one that you had to season yourself and you realize how long it took to get a patina on it, you realize how fast that can go away if you use something with a tomato base, which is an acidic base, or a fruit, which also, citric acid or any of the fruit that has any acid in it will eat the patina away. So good rule of thumb, and a lot of times it's great just to do it for quick cleanup, is to line them with tinfoil. And I wish somebody had told me this too. They sell 2 kinds of tinfoil, heavy duty and regular. Don't mess with regular when you're trying to do Dutch ovens. Get the stuff that's a little bit thicker, that you're not puncturing all the time. It'll save you a lot of steps, and it'll save you a lot of time.
They've got inserts now.
That's something they didn't have. And so now, if you can buy those, they're a little more expensive, but they're great. And you'll also see a lot of people when they're Dutch ovening, and they'll line a Dutch, you'll see the tin foil sticking out all over the sides. Don't do that. Because you got to remember, the premise of a Dutch oven is to be an oven. They work almost like a pressure cooker. And if you've got tin foil sticking up and coming out, then there's gaps, and you're losing a lot of the steam, a lot of the cooking that would normally be going on. You lose when you do that. So what I do is I'll line mine and then just take a sharp knife and just follow around the outside and cut off all the excess and keep it all inside, so that it's never going to be something that interferes with the lid and the seal that you get on the thing.
The 331 cobbler, you put in a 12-inch?
You can put it in a 12, you can put it in a 14, all right? The 12 is going to be, quite a bit deeper when you get it all together because you're using the same amount of ingredients and you're just spreading it out a little bit more. I like to use a 14 for my cobblers. I also like to try and segregate my Dutch ovens, and the reason being, if I do one that does chicken and I do one that does my beans, and then the next time I go out I use the same Dutch and I end up making a cobbler, they taste like chicken or they taste like beans, all right? They do tend to hold those flavors. If you do one that's cobblers, you can do the other way around. It's not going to be a problem the next time you do chicken or anything with them because you can use them for anything. But if you do it that way and you have more than one, then your cobblers don't end up tasting like chicken. If you do a pineapple upside down cake, they're the best dessert, but they really aren't that great if you just came off of a bunch of big ribs that you did, or like honey mustard pork chops. You can do anything in the Dutches that you can do anywhere else. You just got to kind of be aware, is it a soup base? If it's a soup base, then you're going to want more heat on the bottom than you have on the top. If it's a bread, if it's a cake, you're going to want more heat on the top than you have on the bottom. So again, when I'm talking about that rule of thumb where you subtract 3 from the bottom and add 3 to the top, you got to use a little common sense with that. Is this bread? Is this soup? Is it something supposed to be boiling, or is it something that should cook more from the top down? And you can do that. Now, when we were talking about surfaces that you want to cook with, and you put your briquettes on something, you want to make sure that what you're using isn't going to warp with heat. Now, when I first started this, somebody gave me a piece of diamond plate aluminum that was a 1/4 inch thick. I thought, perfect, that's going to work great. And the first time that I put my briquettes on the middle of that and got them all warmed up, I took a 12-inch and set it on the top of it, and the heat got to the point where it warped and it buckled and it popped all at once. And that whole Dutch oven ended up about 4 feet off the ground. Just boom, and up it came, and everything that was in it got spilled out. So you got to make sure that what you're using is like a steel. You can even use tin foil. If you just use tin foil and you put it on the ground, that's your reflective surface and that'll work just fine. But you just don't want to cook directly onto the ground. Now, when you were asking about the aluminums, the aluminum Dutch ovens, if you cook with those and you get just enough heat to do a bread, because we do a lot of biscuits, if you do biscuits in an aluminum, you get them nice and warm, and then you say, okay, they're cooked exactly how I want them on the bottom. I don't want to cook anymore, but they're not done on the top. Then you take your Dutch and put them on the ground and mash them right to the ground. In other words, put them past the legs so that the ground is right up against the bottom, and it works as a heat sink. It stops the cooking instantly, and they will not cook anymore on the bottom, and then you have the perfect brown, and then you can continue to watch them as they cook from the top. And with an aluminum, you really have to do that, but it's also a really great way to cook breads and biscuits with this, all right? Because it'll do the same thing, just not as fast. So if you push that onto the ground with a cast iron, it's going to hold a lot more heat than the aluminum, and it doesn't stop cooking immediately. It ends pretty quick, but not like an aluminum, because you can stop those instantly. Put them into the ground, they're done. Just a perfect heat sink right onto the ground. Okay?
Just don't bury it right there.
Yeah.